So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make your work drawings for your part files. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to File, New, and then either pick the standard.dgw or the standard.idw. For this class, either one will work just fine. If you upload it to Schoology incorrectly and not the way I ask you to, as a PDF, Schoology can kind of read the standard.dwg files, but it does change a lot of information, so what you see on your screen will not be what I see on my screen. So you can use either one of these file types. Realize Schoology can kind of read this one, but not really well. And then Schoology will just have an error with this file type. So what you're going to do when you are done with these is you are going to turn them into PDFs before you submit them to Schoology. So that's one kind of important thing. So for how to set this up, I already opened up one of the files, and if you used this before, the default size used to be C, now the default size is D. But for this class, no matter what, we're still going to have to change our page size. So what we're going to do is right-click on Sheet 1, Edit Sheet, and we can change this to a size A. So that's what we're going to be using in class. We're going to use landscape, so click OK. So with this, instead of having our page be D size, which is actually a really huge piece of paper, and if you're watching this video in my classroom, if you look at the bulletin board with the page sizes, it's that purple one that is like a quarter the size of the bulletin board. Now we switch to a size A, which is your normal printer paper sheet. So the next thing we need to do for setting up our page is we want to change from ANSI large to ANSI A. The reason for that is this currently is taking up a lot of room in here, and we don't want that. So what we're going to do is right-click and delete underneath Sheet 1. We're going to click on the arrow for drawing resources. Double-clicking on the icon doesn't do anything, so don't bother with that. And then click on the arrow for title blocks, and here's where you actually double-click. So if you double-click on the icon for ANSI A, it brings in the information for you. So the nice thing about the border is it changes automatically for the paper size. For some reason, the title block, which is this portion right here, does not change automatically, so you will have to do that yourself. So I'm now going to go to Base. I have an error. Weird. Okay. So if you have your files already open, they're going to be in this section right here. So I'm actually just going to open one of mine just to kind of show you what I mean. So since I'll be doing most of the videos with the green piece, we'll use that one. Alright, so here's the piece. And then if we go back to the drawing one and go to Base, okay, since that's the last file I had open, it automatically pops up. And if it wasn't the last one you had open, then you're just going to click on this little magnifying glass and find the file. Or if it is one of the ones you have open but not the most recent one, then you can kind of pick out of this list. So that's why I wanted to show you that part. And now we have this cube. So unlike before, what you had to do was click on a different button and kind of mess around. Now it kind of brought everything into this one thing. So I'm going to kind of put it in an isometric view just so you can see what our piece looks like. So what we need to do for this one is make it kind of a nice sturdy piece, because this is a puzzle cube, so you can flip it any which way you want. So what I'm going to do is flip that. Let's see. Rotate. I'm going to look at the isometric for this one. Alright, so we can see from here, this is going to be our front view, so we see a lot of our part. We can see it's nice and flat, so we can use that. So depending on how you arranged your object, you might flip it like a completely different way. It's just however your part is. If I had everybody make this exact same part, everyone would have this little cube probably arranged a different way. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, here's our front view, top, and right. And then also we're going to put in an isometric. Okay, to put in all of these, now we're going to right click and OK. Okay, so now we're just going to kind of scoot these around a little bit, make them in here a little bit better. So if you go onto the second engineering class, this isometric view will not be on this page. You're going to put it on its own separate page. I like to keep everything kind of contained to one page just because for people that have a little bit of an issue with kind of how this piece looks in space and trying to get used to seeing the front, top, and right side view kind of all in one, makes it easier for people to get used to it and see what it's supposed to look like. So for this class, we're going to keep them all on one page. Just realize that when you move on to the next class, this will have its own page. So the other part about this that is different is we are going to make sure it is colored. In the other version of this, the older version, some of these were rearranged, and also the icons looked a little different. So if you are used to the version we had last year, which was 2015, it will be a little bit of a learning curve. So for shading, it's going to be this icon. All right, so make sure it's blue. It's not going to change until you click OK. All right, so that's all our views placed in. So the next thing I'm going to do, all right, I'm going to double click on this again. So our scale is right here, so 1 to 1, so 1:1. The reason why I'm mentioning that is we're going to go to Annotate Text, and ooh, that's neat. All right, so our scale, we don't actually have to type that in anymore, which is great. Actually, I'm going to change this to see if and everything up. Yep, it updates automatically. Okay, so since I changed this, and you can see that this updates automatically, so it's one little change that we don't have to do ourselves anymore, which is kind of nice, but you do see that this didn't change the size. So realize that these views, when you look at it, see how they're connected? Those are linked together, so what you do to one will change the others, but this one, it's loose. It's kind of free. It can do what it needs to do. So you will have to, if you do have to shrink them all, realize this one you're going to have to shrink separately. But for this project, 1 to 1 will work just fine. All right, so going back to our text tool. So for title, for this one, it could just be green puzzle piece. All right, so easy title. Okay, and then in here, I want you to put just your name and what period you're in. So so I'm just going to put class 1 for an example. Okay, and to get out of this tool, right click OK. The other thing for this is you can move this around, and if you double click on it, you can get back into it. One little weird thing is you got to highlight it and then change the size afterwards. How to change the size of it is right here. Okay, but the default for what we have for the size works just fine for what we need. All right. So our last step for this is to add in our dimensions. Okay, so we're going to have height dimensions. All right, so you can either click on the line or click on corners. We're going to have width dimensions. All right, so going here. So the thing you need to be aware of with dimensions is you do not want to over dimension. Or, actually I'm just going to add in a dimension right here. So if we go from here to here and then drag it through, yeah, if you ever have that little blue squiggly, if you just hit escape on your keyboard, it goes away. So if I have my dimension and I drag it instead of over here to this side, you can kind of see this line that pops up. We don't want to have that line. So make sure you're putting your dimensions in a spot that makes sense for what you're doing. And also, when you're looking at your dimensions, make sure there's this little border. So you want that gap. Actually, I'm going to zoom in. So see how we have our object and our dimension and extension lines. These are extension, these are dimension. Make sure there is that gap. All right, and then I just pressed home on the keyboard to zoom for what we needed. So I can see here that I have the total height, and then I have the height for this section. I have the width, total width. Then I have width for this section, and this one. How to figure out this one would just be this number minus this one equals that one. Okay. It's a little confusing at first, but you will get used to how it's set up. All right. And then add in the dimensions for depth. So we can add them on this view or this one. I'm just going to add them on here because it's a little easier to see them. So I'm going to go from there to there. And now I'm going to go from this line to this line. All right, so it's actually all the dimensions. And then just realize that our hidden lines are not showing up. So I'm going to double click on our front view and see this right here, hidden line, then click OK. Now we have our hidden lines showing up. So we want our hidden lines. So if you look at your object, realize there should be a hidden line right there and it's not showing where you want it to be. Remember, just double click on your front view and make sure that hidden line is shaded. Okay, so the little blue. All right, if you're looking at it really close, you can probably see the little hidden lines in there. All right. So that is how you set up just one of your pieces. And then also, because I did say I want you to hand these in as PDFs, what you're going to do is go to File, Export, PDF. That's it. And then you're going to save it as a PDF. Easy enough. And then those PDFs, you're going to merge together into one document and submit. Right. So any PDF merging program that you find online will work just fine. There's plenty of them out there. And I will put a link to one that I find useful in the description for this video. And then I will also put a link for that in the assignment for this on Schoology. So the next video I'm going to show you will be one for how to do our presentation view and also for our assembly view.